13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird by Wallace Stevens. 1. Among 20 snowy mountains, the only moving thing was the eye of the blackbird. 2. I was of 3 minds, like a tree, in which there are 3 blackbirds. 3. The blackbird whirled in the autumn winds. It was a small part of the pantomime. 4. A man and a woman are one. A man and a woman and a blackbird are one. 5. I do not know which to prefer, the beauty of inflections or the beauty of innuendos, the blackbird whistling or just after. 6. Icicles filled the long window with barbaric glass. The shadow of the blackbird crossed it to and fro, the mood traced in the shadow an indecipherable cause. 7. O thin men of Haddam, why do you imagine golden birds? Do you not see how the blackbird walks around the feet of the women about you? 8. I know noble accents and lucid, inescapable rhythms, but I know, too, that the blackbird is involved in what I know. 9. When the blackbird flew out of sight, it marked the edge of one of many circles. 10. At the sight of blackbirds flying in a green light, even the bawds of euphony would cry out sharply. 11. He rode over Connecticut in a glass coach. Once a fear pierced him. In that he mistook the shadow of his equipage for blackbirds. 12. The river is moving. The blackbird must be flying. 13. It was evening all afternoon. It was snowing, and it was going to snow. The blackbird sat in the cedar limbs. So, some of the qualities of this poem that one can tell from reading it is that, one, there are brief stanzas, which is very reminiscent of haiku, and there's also a simple language as well. It's nothing too complex. It's a poem that's also accessible, simple language. And the overlapping of the imagery is common with the blackbird, of course, but there's also winter, there's also men and women, Connecticut, ice, and just overall nature. And the overall nature also goes back with haiku stylistically. But also this leads to the question of what's the interpretation of it? A way that this poem can be interpreted is that it's a way of looking at poetry or images in poetry in the sense that there can be multiple ways that one can interpret a poem, just as there's multiple ways of looking at a blackbird. And all these different types of ways of how the image of the blackbird is used in every stanza shows that this poem can be a poem about reading poetry and the functionality of language and how these images that's me.